What's happened, Sync and Stanley, and the entire Sync Army? Brian Fair here, band Shadows Fall, band Overcast, band Downpour, band Hell Night. Too many bands. You know what one thing all those bands have in common? We do not use any tracks. Now, I know this has been a controversial subject. We'll discuss it as I just kind of wander through this graveyard here, which is, I know, a little odd, but here we are. Anyway, my thoughts on the whole idea of backing tracks, which I consider very different than lip syncing. Lip syncing, I mean, if you're on Top of the Pops or something back in the 80s and that was the only way it was done, I guess that's a thing. We've been fortunate enough to play some late night TV shows where we were able to play live, and I feel like this day and age that can be pulled off, but that's a whole different world than backing tracks. To me, backing tracks can be used by a band in ways like to cover some things that they can't play live, as far as if you don't have a keyboard player and you've got some synth parts and you want to add that into the live show, no problem with that, man. You know, you got some horn parts or some strings and you're not going to be able to afford to bring a string quartet on the road with you. Hey, man, play along to a click, add those in, it's all good. With Shadows Fall, we didn't mess with anything. Whichever you heard from us was just 5 dudes up there rocking. You know, we didn't have a good luck with technology in general. Never played to a click track, so we never used anything. The only thing we ever ran on tape was intros in between songs, you know, so like the acoustic intro to Light the Blinds or something like that. But we never even layered anything. If there were keyboard parts in the studio version, we just didn't use them live or found a way to maybe play a guitar melody that would cover that. But some bands don't have that. You know, if you're an industrial band and you need these samples and drum loops that are a huge part of your sound that you use in the studio, that's totally legit, no problem there. But when your actual performance parts, like whether it's the main vocals or a guitar line, and you're playing along to something you recorded, to me, that's just, it takes away from the live experience. To me, I get why bands do it, because it makes things sound huge and makes it sound like the studio, so, you know, inhumanly tight. But that's, to me, not the point of live music. Live music should have an ebb and flow. It should have an energy. Things, you know, should speed up and slow down depending on the emotions of the moment. The crowd can inspire that. If the crowd's going crazy, of course you're going to play a little faster, you know? So I like that variable of live music. I'm also a huge fan of like improvised live music as well, so that's just a different world. But I can understand, you know, like I said, using some little candy tracks here and there, but to straight up play over your own parts or to perform along with your own parts to give it that huge sound, to me, I don't want to call it cheating, but it's close. So anyway, those are my rambling on the move thoughts on the use of backing tracks and lip syncing in music. And but also to remind you, when you see Shadows Fall, for better or worse, it's just 5 dudes making noise through amps and drums and microphones.
Sync and Stanley with the Sync Army. What's going on? My thoughts on backing tracks. I don't like it. I'd rather hear the bands be real and what they have. But I also understand if you have an orchestra and all these backing vocals that you can't recreate that live sometimes with the budget. But I'd rather hear the band struggle. So that's my thought on backing tracks. I don't like it. Hope to see you out there soon.
There's nothing left to say. Yourself you have betrayed.